I will sit and relax. I will not talk much because we have a not I don't know what to say. Someone very special to join our education program because he never joined this program with us with me and Nisa though. So today.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. I don't think I'm very special.
Hello Nisa.
Hi, Sadiha. Well, so good afternoon to everybody. So this is the Elephant Educational live stream. So this is the English version. So if you happen to be Thai and you just clicked in, it's okay. So we'll try to have a short synopsis of this a little bit later, and you can come and check them out a little bit later as well. But you're here with us at the Golden Triangle Asian Elephant Foundation in Chiang Rai in northern Thailand. And today, our guest, of course, is we're going to talk a little bit about the foundation with John Roberts, our directors of elephants, and of course, our boss, I guess you could say, our big boss that sits behind the scheme, answering all the difficult emails that we can't answer. And here he is going to be telling us a little bit about the foundation, how it comes to be, and I guess seeing different changes throughout the years that he have been with us with the elephants as well. So, would you like to tell us a little bit about how you start the foundation?
We came, Anantara came across and got this land and the hotel here in 2003 and decided they wanted to have an elephant camp on site. It's just something to do with the land and to make sure that guests wanted to come and stay in the hotel. We looked after the elephants we had very well, and we had a partnership with the government in Lampang. But by 2005, we realized we could do more to help elephants, and so we set up a foundation whose main idea was to bring elephants from the streets of Bangkok. In those days, because of another coronavirus, not COVID, SARS, a lot of elephants didn't have work, a bit like the situation today, so they found themselves begging on the streets of Bangkok in order so the mahouts could feed the elephants and perhaps make a little bit of money to feed their own family. We thought that wasn't a good place for an elephant, so we said, we have all this jungle, why don't you come off the streets of Bangkok and come and live with us in the Golden Triangle? And that's why we set up the foundation. Of course, it's changed a lot since then, but that was the original idea behind it.
Just before your next question, whoever here, Kun Puk, please let us know if you can't hear or is too, or you need John to speak a bit louder, or this is okay. But yeah, otherwise just continue.
Oh, today we have the live chat on.
Yes, of course.
Okay, cool. We have set up correctly this time. That's great. So, for I guess
Tech crew this time.
tech crew this time. So, well, just in case you saw the elephant just now, they are Memu and Menoi, and they are off to find food. So,
And
don't
much more
worry.
interesting than me.
Well, you don't want them to be interested at you at this time, so
That's
it's okay. That's fine. So, for I guess there has been since the establishment of the foundation since 2005, and now we are here at 2021. Things change a lot. So, do you think that our objective and our mission still remain the same, or has it been changed?
At our most basic level, which is to help elephants that can't help themselves, it's the same. The way we go about it has changed because of the situation, the way the captive elephant situation has changed in Thailand since that time. It's kind of come full circle, as I said earlier, because we're now in COVID, and actually the impact on the elephants from this coronavirus is far bigger than the impact on the elephants from that one. But in the meantime, elephants had places to stay and places to go. They had elephant tourism took off. We no longer have to worry about street begging elephants because there are now it's now illegal and that's enforced. So yes, we've changed the way we do things. We've also become more efficient because we've been working on donation money, donors' money. And we figured just looking after one elephant and spending $18,000 a year on a single elephant is not the most efficient way of looking after elephants, or when you can use the same amount of money or the money to look after 2 elephants and use that to look after maybe 100 elephants. So we've changed the way we do things a little bit. We no longer rush out and get all the elephants we possibly can. We're happy with the elephants we have on site. with a number of elephants we have on site, and we will try and keep that number and look after them well, but we try and spend money more efficiently and look after big picture projects off-site nowadays.
So I'll try to move closer to John to
I
make
need a
sure that you
microphone,
can hear me.
Okay. Sorry, everybody.
You know, can hear John, not me.
Oh, hold
Okay.
on.
Oh, we
Is
lost
that-
our question.
You lost a question. Yeah.
Oh, another question. Oh, dear.
From
Oh, it's
her.
not a lot.
Okay.
It's not a lot. So what are some kind of, so for now, I guess, what, after, aside from working with the foundation here on site, basically, what other projects are we looking after at this time?
Well, my favourite sort of elephants are wild elephants. And so one of the things that I've been very happy, one of the big changes I've been very happy with is to move into actual proper conservation rather than just looking after captive elephants. And so we have wild elephant projects. We have our own 18,000 hectares of standing forest in Cambodia with rangers on it full time, keeping any wildlife that wants to use that area safe. Keeping the forest standing, and that means it's available as an elephant corridor as well, so elephants can migrate backwards and forwards. We're working with communities in and around Khao Yai National Park with partners Freeland Foundation, and helping the people who live close to elephants, where elephants are coming out and eating their crops, helping them live better with elephants and interact with elephants, push elephants back into the park in a way that is less harmful, that doesn't raise the tensions. And then we're also working with Hunter University of New York to try to help sponsor a scientific project looking into the character and personality of wild elephants, and seeing if that can be a predictor of whether an elephant will go out and raid crops. So those are the wild elephant projects we have. We've also worked very hard in the last few years in bringing better training techniques, better mahout techniques, and some of the more zoo-based techniques for looking after elephants into Southeast Asia. So we have our target training positive reinforcement program, which pre-COVID would go out at least once a year and run a workshop somewhere in Southeast Asia for mahouts and elephant camp managers and vets from that country. And we'd invite everybody in and we'd cover all the costs, and they'd hang out and learn this technique, which positive reinforcement isn't new to them, but we show them how that they can use it scientifically. Also, the Human Elephant Learning Project, who we've now helped, we've facilitated a couple of workshops, and elephant enrichment as well. So now that elephants find themselves either in tourist camps, sometimes unfortunately on short chains with nothing to do, or also in camps where they are put in an enclosure and expected to look after themselves. Environmental enrichment is something that's been developed in zoos to make sure that no matter where you keep your elephant, especially if they don't have access to all this sort of habitat, that they have something to keep their brains enriched and to make sure that they're not bored all day. So those are the three projects we've been working on, and developing and hopefully improving, but at least fine-tuning up here in the Golden Triangle as well. And then since COVID, with our partners Work for Wildlife and Elephant Care International, we've been working with, we've been helping subsidize the wages of 15 vets around Thailand in order to make sure that they can continue to give free veterinary care to any elephant, and support the government in that work, because the government of course has their own task force, but it's not enough to do it by themselves. So it's a great teamwork there, and we're managing to subsidize some of their wages and sending supplementary fodder to lactating mothers in Chiang Mai, so their babies don't have behavioural or health issues, hopefully, once COVID is gone and into the future.
Yeah, that seems to be quite a bit of a
Yeah.
huge projects that we are looking at. It is, hasn't it? Definitely. So for you, what has changed in, I guess, the elephant world, or even the elephant themselves, since, I guess, from the start in 2005? That's a big one.
In the elephants themselves, I don't think have changed. They're still here and they're still doing what they do.
A bit fatter?
Our elephants are a bit fatter, that's true. There are more vets around, so they're probably better healthcare wise. perhaps the biggest change is, for various reasons, the cost of an elephant to buy an elephant went from 1 or 200,000 baht in 2005, 2006 to something like 3 or 4 million baht immediately pre-COVID, and that has driven a whole load of changes. A lot of that's had to do with the takeoff of tourism, people buying elephants to rescue them, which was kind of misguided. It means there's no downside to owning an elephant, because if you own an elephant, you will always be able to make your money back on that elephant. And that has driven a lot of changes in the way elephants are managed and looked after, because people are not so happy, mahouts and owners are not so happy to let their elephants roam free and roam out of sight. They like to keep them nowadays, if they can, on short change. They won't take risks with friendship groups, they won't take risks with electric fences. They're guarding an investment that's worth more than my house, basically, which has changed the game a lot. On the other hand, there is a lot more awareness of, in certain places anyway, driven by tourism and mainly European or tourists from the States, of the need for elephant welfare, and that has driven improvements in the way certain tourist camps, particularly those catering to Western audiences, have looked after their elephants. So we went through, these two gone swimming.
There is a swamp.
So
There's a
we
swamp.
went from, but that doesn't mean that all welfare has improved. But I think there's a greater awareness of the need for welfare, particularly up here in the north as well, and to people catering for Western guests, and also much better veterinary care as well. So I think those are the two biggest changes. So mixed, some good, some bad.
Some good, some bad, definitely.
Yeah.
What about for like
Sorry, can you speak a bit louder? A few comments about your voice. I can't go closer to you.
No, don't
Social
come.
distancing.
Yes, please don't come close.
Yeah, but please speak a bit louder.
Okay.
Yes, that's
Oh dear,
good.
now they're gonna hear it all the way to the camera.
Everybody's going to think I'm
John's yelling.
Exactly, I'm telling you off again.
Okay.
What do you think about culture-wise, I guess, for like the upkeeping of the mahout tradition versus the new world, kind of like welfare kind of thing?
I don't see it as a clash. I'm sorry to shout. This is seen, but I don't see it as a clash. I see that the old traditions, the old mahouts know how to look after elephants, particularly up here in the north, but also in Surin. They know what is needed to look after elephants. They always did for the past however many thousand years, look after elephants in the forest and look after elephants well enough. It's only in the past 10 or 15 years that people have allowed elephants to come out of the forest, to be out of the forest all the time, to be in, maybe 20 years, because I've been here 20 years, and to be in this tourism situation, which is where welfare has declined so much. Now, what has happened, particularly we see with the elephants who are street begging, with the mahouts who are street begging, they then see the way they were looking after elephants for the last 10 years, and they will call it their tradition, because in some cases that's all they know. Since they were kids, that's how they started looking after elephants, and they will say, oh, it's our tradition to keep an elephant tied up behind my house in the backyard, which it may have been for 2 or 3 days a year, but it never went on 365 days a year. So I don't see that a clash of tradition. I see because people have been doing something now for 10 or 15 years, they tend to think it's their tradition, but it doesn't go back to the real old traditions. So I think I don't feel too guilty trying to get them to change that way of doing things, and to look back to their elders for the way elephants were looked after in the old days. If you remember when we had the Pakam ceremony, the Krubayai painted a beautiful picture of the way elephants were looked after, and that's their tradition. The fact that it's become moved into a small box of keeping them in the village the whole time and changed and modernized is not necessarily, doesn't mean that if we try and get rid of the recent worst changes that we are fighting a tradition, or fighting against a tradition.
Oh, I see. So I guess I don't know. For you, is it? Do you think being a foreigner and working in the elephant world kind of like sent some kind of message to the traditional mahouts? Like I always hear something like, foreigner don't know it as best as we do. We basically raise the elephant. Your country doesn't have elephant. What do you have? What kind of things do you know about it?
Call me arrogant, which you might do. I hope I've been here long enough, and I started out admitting that I knew very, very little or nothing about the Thai tradition of looking after elephants. We were here for 5 years just running as an elephant camp based on what we were told was the way to do things by the government for the first 5 years, and we didn't ask too many questions. We didn't try and change anything. I'm not always the most polite person or delicate person, but I think I've been around long enough and I've done enough favors. And the way we always did things with moving elephants off the streets and stopping the street begging and everything else, when we try and push back now and try and change maybe the way some of the more modern things that we don't like need to be changed, yes, there is a little pushback, but nobody can say that I haven't been doing things, or we hadn't been doing things their way for 15 years.
Right.
And we haven't spent time identifying where the problems were and then how to try and change them. And we're not ever advocating changing everything root and branch. We're saying these are the things we want to change about the way you guys look after your elephants. This is how we suggest you do it. These are the facilities. This is the money we're putting behind it, without saying publicly, you're all bad, you've got to change everything. But I think I get away with a lot being a foreigner, but also being a foreigner I did my 15 years here before I even tried to change anything, basically, before I started lecturing. So people know my face, and we've spent a hell of a lot of money. We've done a lot of favors for a lot of people before we get to that point. So I think we have some leeway. How much? Time will tell.
Yeah, I see. Well, what about, I guess, in yourself? Do you feel like there has been a change? I think for everybody start from like, I guess, for the lack of word, just being like this white paper and you just soak whatever colors that come into you. Do you think like, have you changed since day one that you work with the elephants?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you don't
You
if you don't learn, what's the point in being here? So that was obviously everybody gets older, gets more experience. If you should learn from your mistakes, and we've made a lot of mistakes. So yeah, definitely. And when I arrived, I was very accepting of the status quo. I was very accepting, having said that not all traditions are bad and everything else. I was very accepting of the fact that of the way the elephants were kept, that there were no questions asked about mahout behavior. You just had this guy's not a good mahout. Everybody might accept that and say, okay, he's treating his elephant not well. But everybody kind of accepts that as part of it. Now we've changed to say, okay, well, we can't accept that anymore. We can't accept that if a mahout is not able to do his job, that we just sit back and say, okay, well, that's the status quo. So definitely I've changed. I think I've definitely become more wary of elephants. I've had a few elephant incidents, and so I know more about them. In the old days, I probably would run up and start hugging elephants all the time, and was one of those guys. I've got over that, but I've been through. I sound like an old man. I've been through so much. We had an elephant who was kind of like my daughter, and then she grew up a little bit, and then I put a stop to that relationship because it wasn't healthy, and then unfortunately she died. So many things gone through. So yes, definitely I've changed. I think I have become the biggest change is less accepting of the status quo, less accepting of maybe excuses involved in the status quo, and more likely to question and see what can be done what can be done to improve the lives of elephants, but also improve the lives of mahouts. I drink a lot less whiskey as well. I stopped drinking whiskey early in it. I drink a lot less. I don't sit down with mahouts and have long drinking sessions with them anymore, which may or may not be an improvement.
Yeah. So let's see. I was gonna say something just like it totally lost off my head. It's gone.
But
Whatever it was.
it actually, since you mentioned about it changed a lot. Even I'm here for such a short time, but the way we take care elephant, the way that we have to deal with the mahouts, it changed like every year. Yeah, a lot of traditional thing, like for example riding. I know like it's very sensitive for some people, but it's a lot of thing that happen between then and now for us. What do you think about that? And how do you see captive elephant like direction? Which way that we should go, from your opinion?
Oh goodness, well,
Big question from manager.
right. Well, riding elephants as a guest activity is something that we have stopped. It doesn't fit the market here, the people who we are trying to bring in and to talk to and to educate. Whether it's better or worse for our elephants that we've stopped putting guests on top of them, my jury is still out. I can't see that it is better for the elephants. I see they're still getting the same exercise and everything else. In fact, they're getting less exercise because there are fewer things happening during the day. So that particular issue, it's an experiment. I think riding or not riding is not the issue. I think that is the same for every other elephant camp. One of the changes we have made, rather than talk about that, one of the changes we have made, which is a definite improvement, is giving the elephants more freedom, more time walking around by themselves, and developing activities or making sure that they do that in between activities, which we never did in the past. In the past, in the early days, every elephant would come into elephant camp at 7 o'clock in the morning. They would stay there on a short chain all day, unless they had a guest activity. Then they would go back out to the forest. So they're out in the forest or free roaming or doing other things when there are no guests around. That to me is a definite improvement in something that we have done, and I would like to see more of that spread throughout all elephant facilities. Direction for captivity. I think, always said, and I have possibly become more inclined to believe that captivity is not the way for elephants. It is a throwback from another era, and there is no need, in my opinion, to keep elephants in captivity anymore in range states. I think I've always believed that. I was more in awe of the tradition when I arrived than I am now, and as I've said before, the tradition it isn't tradition. The way elephants are kept, in my opinion, went downhill not from when I arrived. I wasn't the catalyst, but I saw it go downhill. Elephants were being kept in more and more confined spaces, and fewer of them were finding time in the forest. And I think when we have this many elephants in captivity, it's difficult to look after them all well. We are not perfect in what we do here, and we have a limited number of elephants in all this space. There is no, I mean, the wild isn't perfect for an elephant either. It's a struggle out there, but there is no perfect way, in my opinion, to keep an elephant in captivity. So I forget what the direction of where we should go. We should, in my opinion, I understand your question about tradition, so I don't think we can argue to get rid of that. And if we do, it's not my place as a foreigner to do so. But I think we could drastically reduce the number of elephants in captivity, and we need to have, and I have big arguments with people about this, if we're going to continue to breed elephants, and something I don't see the necessity to do that, but the tradition states we should, then we should have stud books. We should have some control over the breeding. We should make sure that we know where the genes are coming from, have a plan somewhere within the country to say the ideal number of elephants in captivity. And I did say this 10 years ago in public, in the Foreign Correspondence Club. So there we go. It must have been 10 years ago. We need a plan somewhere, somebody, And if it's not me because my number's 0, somebody has to decide. If you're going to say we have a tradition, we must have elephants in captivity, 2 traditions, probably 2 large traditions, Karen and Surin. We must have elephants in captivity. Somebody somewhere then needs to decide how many elephants do we need in captivity, how do we get to that number? How many elephants can we look after well? Because we do have 3,800 something elephants in captivity. Nobody's counted since COVID because people can't get around, but around 4,000 elephants in captivity. And nobody can argue that we're looking after all of them well. And particularly now COVID has come along and wiped out tourism, which was the only source of income. It's difficult to argue that tourism is a sustainable source of income when we now know something like this can happen. So I would like to see a plan, Yui and Bo. I would like. They don't agree. They don't agree. They want to live life as elephants. But we need to have someone in the government. What's he doing?
Yes.
Someone in the government, someone somewhere needs to have come on and say, like, okay, this is the tradition. This is the number of elephants we actually need to have in captivity. This is the number of elephants we can look after well in captivity. Let's do that rather than at the moment. I think people tend to look at this mythical figure of 50,000 elephants in 1950. Let's go back to that.
It's okay.
Someone doesn't want to be there anymore. Maybe Yui is calling.
Yeah, maybe.
Bye bye.
It's allowed. Go.
Enjoy.
Exactly.
ไม่เป็นไรค่ะให้ไปได้เลย ยังไม่ไปแต่ให้อยู่แถวนั้นได้
เดินตรงนั้นได้
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So rather at the moment, the tendency is to say, okay, there's this mythical figure which I think nobody could have known for sure, but they say in 1900 there were 100,000 elephants, 1950 there were 50,000 elephants. Let's get back to that. Well, the world has changed. There were 50,000 elephants. Possibly nobody's ever told me whether that's 50,000 captive or 50,000 in total. But anyway, since 1950, Thailand has lost 50% or whatever of its forest cover, and also in 1950 there was a massive logging industry. All those elephants were employed, and they were in the forest. They would do their hard work of logging, but they would get to go roaming in the forest at night. Now there's no logging industry, so we don't need that number of elephants, is my opinion. And I'm live on YouTube. I'm going to get thrown out of the country.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Someone's going to get you. I'm not even going to ask the question that I have in my head right now because this is probably not safe topic at this time.
Oh, no.
But it's okay. So there was a question from one of our fans that he said, what is the hardest thing to manage in the GTAF?
Luckily, I've got a great team. I have to say that because you're here. I think at the moment the hardest thing to manage is making sure we still have cash. But no, in my opinion, the most difficult job we've always been, and it's not necessarily my job anymore, it's you guys' job, is managing the difference in expectations between the mahouts and the elephants and the elephant camp and the hotel who provide the land for us, provide all the admin, but in return would like us to look after their guests, to manage those difference in expectations between what and possibly the guests as well, although guests come with very, very different, varying expectations, but managing that divide, if you like, see what I mean. You might argue, and whether it's a close second, that managing mahouts and keeping them on track and doing what we want to do and keeping those things changing is probably also a tough management issue, but
that is tough.
that is tough. Yeah, but it's, in a way, it's not, to me, it's not as insurmountable as perhaps sometimes managing the difference in expectations between the hotels and the hotel. Oh, no, back. Or managing the difference in everybody's expectations and moving them towards my expectations, our expectations, let's put it that way, is possibly possibly the hardest. The humans are the most difficult bit to manage.
Well, just extra with that, with the mahouts. As you say, we have traditional, but also we try to bring some scientific, you know, paper or improvement to improve elephant welfare. But also our job to explain to the mahouts and let them understand as well. I think that is quite hard when we talk about free roaming, when we talk about wild elephant, yeah, chain or walk and exercise. I think that thing it's still hard, and luckily we have a good team, including mahouts, who willing to learn more from us. But I think in other parts that is very hard to let old traditional people to accept with the new generation who don't know much about elephant as they think they would know.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, that's is undoubtedly the most visual issue. I'm just trying to.
I'm just looking just to make sure she's around somewhere. So she's around back there. All right. Well, that's great. Those are very tough questions that you just got
Yes.
over
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Did we plan for this? Huh?
I don't know. We planned
expecting
10-15 minutes beforehand, but yeah. So
A light, isn't it?
yeah. So do you want to tell the audience a little bit about some of the upcoming events that is coming out next week and in the future
Or
maybe
next
this
month.
year, kind of thing?
What's happening? Oh, fun.
Nisa, just tell John what to speak, actually.
Okay, so we. No, I don't. That's not. This isn't the place to announce that. We can't talk about that. Were you talking about the Steps Challenge?
But
No.
you... Oh, on 12th of August.
Okay. World Elf Day. Yes. Yes, we'll be celebrating elves.
Good preparation, I would say.
Before
Okay,
Christmas?
so what's happening? Actually, it's not our thing, but we will be part of it. It's being put together by the Explorers Club. World Elephant Day, which is an organisation inspired by Thailand, inspired by the Elephant Reintroduction Foundation, run by a lady called Patricia Sims. Seems to be put together by Satish Venkatesh, who studies at City University of New York and has been one of our elephant professional lecturers, and a great lineup of speakers giving lectures. Not you, you're not speaking. I know you can. You may speak, actually. It depends on it. Giving lectures on elephants and elephants in Africa, elephants in Asia, various aspects of their biology. It's a bit like our elephant professional lecture series, only boiled into one place. And I'm going to steal some of the other lecturers there and get them to come and do an elephant professional as well. And we will go live at 7 a.m. our time, which I think is 8 p.m. New York City time on Wednesday. But it could be their Thursday. Oh no, it's their Thursday. It's the 11th anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
a
their
time
Wednesday,
thing.
and we have to work out which day it is for us.
Yes.
But we'll be going live on that. I put the link on the social media channels, and join them for that. It's worth in Thailand. It's worth getting up there. Whether it's going to be worth getting up at 4 a.m. for us 3 days running, I don't know. Just to listen to the lectures. Hopefully they put a recording up. Our bit's 7 o'clock, which would be slightly easier.
My noise scratching is louder than John speaking. Probably. She knows how to
closer.
steal a scene.
Exactly. So yes, World Elephant Day is coming up, and you celebrate elephants in any way, and celebrate the world's elephants in any way you can on that day, August the 12th, which is also Thai Mother's Day, in honour of the late King's wife,
The Queen Dowager, right? Do we
Queen
call-
Dowager. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, so that's the official title, Queen Sirikit.
Yes.
Her birthday.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
So, how would you follow us on social media? So, what website do we go to?
Well, you are already on our YouTube channel, so that's worth following. We also have a Facebook page, which is GTAF Helping Elephants. We have an Instagram page, which is GTAF_Thailand. Our website is www.helpingelephants.org, and there is a donate now button there, which you can use to help us if you like the sound of our projects or the sound of our ideas or anything along those lines and would like to help us continue. There is a donate now button there, and we we are a Thai registered foundation, so we will use the funds very, very well. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Have any take-home messages you want to tell us?
No, I think you've scrambled my brain sufficiently. Thank you. I can't think of a. Can't think. I'm all over the place at the minute.
Yeah. So for today's YouTube Live episodes on the introduction of the Golden Triangle Asian Elephant Foundation. So this is basically the end of our live today. So in case you guys have any comments or concern or would like to get into contact with us, so feel free to, go and watch the live stream, which will be on YouTube still. Will be available on YouTube after the live. And you can follow us on our various social medias as well. But if you're Thai, we also have an extra channel. So สำหรับคนไทยนะคะก็เรายังมี Clubhouse นะคะที่ตอนนี้เรายังไม่ได้กำหนดท็อปิกแต่ว่าเดี๋ยวจะมานะคะสำหรับสัปดาห์ที่แล้วเราคุยกันไปถึงของเรื่องของโรคของช้างที่มากับหน้าฝนนะคะก็ for สำหรับ เอพิโซดหน้าก็จะพยายามเอามาบอกกับทุกท่านนะคะ but thank you guys so much for watching the video. And if you guys have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact us at any of our social media accounts. And
You don't talk the same thing. I want you to talk about tomorrow at 9 o'clock. So actually tomorrow we have another, yeah, tomorrow we have live stream, but it's not gonna be at 8 o'clock because we are busy at the morning. It will be in Thai and time is 9 o'clock on our YouTube. So please come and join us. Tomorrow we have Kun Bum who will come to join us and talk about the way like as more like about culture and how he would take care elephant. So please stay tuned and come to join us. I will try to put the link tonight. Otherwise John will complain about it. So again, thank you so much for today and see you again tomorrow. What is it? Oh, 9 a.m. Sunday in Thai. พรุ่งนี้นะคะจะเป็นไลฟ์ภาษาไทยตอน 9 โมงนะคะ สามารถเข้ามาติดตามชมได้ที่ YouTube ของเราสำหรับวันนี้ขอบคุณทุกท่านค่ะลาไปก่อนบ๊ายบายค่ะบ๊ายบายบ๊ายบายแม่หมูมาหน่อย